right, what's up, everybody? This is the Reflexive Solutions YouTube channel. Coming back with another interview. We got my man Kenneth Boykins, right? I'm saying that right?
Yeah.
Yeah, great drummer. So we just wanted to bring him in here and just pick his brain about, what he thinks about the music, uh, I guess, industry, so to speak, from a musician's perspective and specifically from a drummer's perspective. Somebody I respect a lot. So we'll just let you you want to introduce yourself a little bit, man? Just kind of give us a little rundown of who you are.
Yeah, man. My name is Kenneth, drummer, educator, and session musician. Real fortunate, man, for my man, Benaya, man. Really appreciate this opportunity. I've been playing for about 16 years and teaching for the better half of a decade. And yeah, man, I'm just trying to be, always trying to work on just being a better version of myself. Music is definitely my passion. I feel like it's my calling, my ministry, but at the same time, it's a way to express myself. It's a universal language. So I'm grateful to have this opportunity to share my gift, man, my calling with you guys.
Right, that language piece you just mentioned, that's kind of Vic Wooten's. Now, are you a fan of Vic Wooten?
I am, yeah.
Yeah, he's kind of, I think his generation is kind of getting, we got some newer guys kind of replacing them now, but he's one of my favorite from back in like the late 90s, early 2000s, man. Up until now, of course, but the whole music is a language thing. I love that perspective, man.
It's huge. Agreed, man. Yeah.
All right, well, let's get into it, man. We'll just start asking you a few questions here. So we'll just start from the beginning, man. How long have you been playing the drums, really? And you can start there, or you could just tell us, like, how did you get into music? How did you start, and then just how long have you been into it?
Okay. Like I said earlier, maybe like somewhere between like maybe 15, 16 years. At some point, you just kind of forget. But I feel like I've always actually been in music. I come out of, born in Dallas, Texas, but my family's from Flint, Michigan. And my grandparents, heavy in the church. Of course, my mom is heavy in the church as well. And my earliest memories with music was actually just my grandfather was at the time was a deacon before he was like an ordained minister, and was a part of this church out in Flint. And I just remember like just literally being on during offering time and getting on the drummer's lap. I don't know, just always having a great relationship with the musicians at the church. And the earliest memories were being able to get on the drummer's lap, the drummer calling me over and just playing. And I'm not playing anything, he's holding the hands, he's holding my hands or whatever, and I'm just mimicking what he's doing. Then of course, just like, I don't remember this, but my grandmother tells me, and I feel like it's just the story to tell. Yeah, you were beating on pots and pans. I have no recollection of that, but apparently she still has those pots and pans. It's super hilarious. I'm like, Grandma, you probably should get rid of those.
Right.
But and then just always having an affinity for music, but specifically for the drums. And the earliest memory that I have outside of being on the drummer's lap and playing is getting out of church, going home. And my mom had a thing, she still kind of does, a thing for just like candles. And I don't know if you remember like those old like long candles or whatever. I don't know if they still make them like that anymore. I forget what they're called, but they're like kind of lanyard type candles or whatever. And they burn down, right?
Oh, okay.
And I just remember just taking those candles and using those as drumsticks and getting in trouble because I would break them.
Right,
like,
yeah.
So yeah, just always having an affinity for the drums. And there was a period I thought I was going to be like the next Michael Jordan, and I just didn't practice enough. I was okay at the game, but at some point down the line, I just fell out of love with it, like with the pressure of it and just the different things. And just, I guess, being a young kid and wanting to explore things. Went back down to Flint to visit my family for a family vacation with my younger brother. And like we were going to the church to kind of clean it up. At this period, my grandfather has a church, he's a minister. And we're going to the church to clean the church on like a Thursday before service on the Sunday. And I saw the kid that was there at the church. And I was even anticipating the kid. I'm like, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. I'm just thinking about the drums. But I saw the kid, didn't clean anything, hopped on the kid and like knew exactly what I wanted to do. Like,
Okay.
so I was in this real limbo zone of like, what do I want to do? What do I want to be?
He said, how old were you at this time?
I'm at that point. I'm somewhere between like 11 or 12.
Okay. So not like
You
a
know.
little kid.
Yeah. But like young
Young.
enough where it's like you start. And I don't know. I always found myself different. I always found. I don't know. I could be wrong about the age, but like I'm thinking as early as 7. I always had this thing for thinking about what I want to be when I grow up. That was a question that always like kind of just rung around my head. And whatever I wanted to do, I just knew that I wanted to make, in my mind, lots of money doing it, which, as you grow older, you're just trying to basically just provide and be comfortable, right? But make lots of money doing it, but enjoy what I do.
Right.
And so I had always been on that journey. So basketball was that thing. Being a masseuse at one time was that. I'm just weird. I'm just like, I thought I wanted to be a masseuse. I thought I wanted to do, I don't know, be like a personal trainer. But I found drums. I found like I kind of stumbled upon drums again because there was a period I wasn't playing it. And it was just like, instead of me cleaning the church, it was like I went to go play the drums. Didn't know how to play as far as just like, being so far, like so apart from it for such a long time, but I just knew it when I picked up the sticks. And yeah, man. So
it sounds like basically you kind of came to it naturally.
Yeah.
Just like beating on the pots and pans.
Yeah.
So you are self-taught then? You didn't have formal lessons, like a formal
for a period
teacher?
of time, yeah.
Oh,
Definitely
so you did
self-taught.
come and start having a. So
Yeah.
how'd that come to be the formal lesson? The reason I asked that
Yeah.
too is because your style, if people don't know you,
Yeah.
you
yeah.
gotta really. That's what I like about you and Solomon.
Okay.
The other. This the piano player I interviewed. For y'all who haven't seen the video yet, check it out. But
Yeah.
you guys are very professional, and I think I've
Yeah.
told y'all that before.
Yeah.
Which, naturally, I feel like you had to have been
There has to be
some actual training there. But so yeah, talk. So
Yeah.
is that accurate? And then when did you get into having actual lessons outside of teaching? So
Yeah, so the journey was for some time, definitely just teaching myself how to play, but I have to kind of back it up a little bit. So it was like, I found the drums in Michigan, and then I like jacked my grandparents' drumsticks from the church. They knew I had them, so they didn't say anything to me about it. But I thought I had to sneak them for some reason instead of just asking them. Kids don't do that type of stuff. Just ask your folks, man.
Right.
Like, anyway, so I took the sticks back when I came back home, and I didn't have anywhere to play. But it was interesting how it all kind of worked out. It really was like a divine type thing that was definitely happening, because I needed an outlet and a place to play, but I didn't have anywhere. So actually, it was just like I held on to the motivation of just, I'm going to find a way to figure out how to play. So I started trying to do like band. There were spots that were filled for drums, and it just got to the point where it was like all I could do was carry around the sticks. But at some point, like some months later, my mom really wanted to start going back to church. There's a period she wasn't in the church, and that just opened up the opportunity for me to now be in an environment where I get to see live music, right? And then, always also having like, and I kind of skipped over some stuff, but just also having an affinity for like the Lord, just always being able to hear him and communicate with him, even if I wasn't aware that I was doing it. And so it was interesting how that happened. But I ended up being at a church that was called, I think they're still around actually, called Lowry Community Christian Center. And I wasn't playing at the church, but you get there every Sunday and it's just live. Like it's like you're just soaked into like, sucked into like just the live music aspect. And I'm the type of person where if I'm into something, I'm usually all the way in, and so it's hard to kind of get my attention away from that. So I would see the musicians playing and I'm focused on the drummer. So it was like I was learning from him. Never got a chance to meet him, never had time. He would always kind of like run out or whatever. But there was him and there was another female drummer. So a lot of it was just like, just kind of watching them, you know what I mean? And then just trying to take on the frame of mind of whatever it was that I could pick up from them.
How much of that did you internalize? Because watching somebody do it and then sitting down and making it happen.
Yeah. Two different
Sometimes,
things, right?
yeah. So like,
Yeah.
how did that?
Yes.
That's interesting. These
Yeah,
aren't questions I have.
no,
written
that's
down.
good. The transition. There was another transition that happened. We were at that church only for a period of time,
Okay.
and then we moved to another church through the recommendation of my mother's friend at the time, and it was so that church that I was at, Laurie, was a Sunday church, and we ended up moving over through like intense thought and just prayer to an Adventist church. Well, this Adventist church had really no real music kind of going on like that. There was music going on, but compared to what I come from, it was like kind of like dead in a way, right? But there was a drum set there. No drummer, a drum set, and there's music happening.
Opportunity.
Right. So I ended up actually, your parents kind of talk you. Oh yeah, my baby plays the drums. Yeah. Didn't play anything. But in my mind, I've taken all this information in. So long story short on that, I end up just getting the opportunity to after going to the church for a while, getting to play just on the drum set, just after church. And not knowing anything, but it was just like, okay, this is what I'm going to try to learn how to do. And then it transformed into the musician who was there at the time, saw that I was interested in it, and just invited me to come to the rehearsals that were going on. And that was going to be my practice, right? In terms of just like getting all of it all at once. And of course, so that's how that happens. Like I end up, just being at a church that has somewhat of music going on, but no drummer and a free drum set, So that's kind of how that happened. And that just went on for a little while until I actually played my first service. Like officially, but I was rehearsing with the choir every Friday night. So
it still sounds largely self-taught because it's not like somebody sat down and told you. It sounds like you got in with some musicians. I don't know what skill level the group
they
was
were
at.
High. Well, the musician, it was just one musician.
So he knew what he was doing.
Yeah.
Did he give you a lot of scrutiny? Like, was he like, nah, I'll play this? A lot of direction?
Definitely a lot of direction, but like not too much. He's an old school guy. He's still around.
Okay.
His name is Chuck Abernathy. Great guy. Actually became my music mentor. But what he did was, my first music mentor, but what he ended up doing was, he didn't really say much to me in the beginning. His thing was, because kids apparently had done that before, come up to the drum set and just play. And I'm not interested. He wanted to see if I was going to stick around.
If it was in you to do it.
I was there every week. I would beg my mom, like, Mom, we're going to rehearsal, right? Sure, son. All right, let's go.
That's interesting.
Every week. So I had like the drive, like I'm focused, I'm centered. You're not gonna pull me away from it. That's what I want to do. And I also felt that I was like too old. I got into it super late. So I just
And how late we talking?
I'm thinking I had to have been 12. I think I was 12, man.
Okay, so
I'm thinking there are kids, and I'm just coming off of basketball, so like kids start playing that much earlier on, and then when they're 12, they're usually like doing some type of like organized teams or some camps. So I'm like, I've dropped what I've been doing since I actually was 5, right? Completely to just start something completely new, and I have to catch up. I don't know what catching up looks like, but
you're thinking this at 12.
I'm literally thinking this at 12. And I only have the reference of the drummer that I saw, who I don't know how old he is, but he looked real young to me. He looked like he was maybe like 17 or 18. So I'm like, man, in 5 years, can I get that sound? Can I get close to that? Right. And I have a gauge in my mind. And so, it was like I just need to take every opportunity I can to play, and this is the one when I get here on Fridays where I can get the most like attention to detail done. And when I started to like just show my level of commitment, that's when the mentoring started to happen. And he just would dig into me, and it also helped my character, but he would let me know, hey man, no, I want it like this. I want you to sound like this. And I was playing stuff like I could not even remotely play. Like the one of the hardest songs that like I was being thrown at was Jesus Be Offense by Fred Hammond. And just like feeling that already, like in that like shuffle type vibe, and it's like I don't even know what this is. Like, and they're doing the intro and everything. If you know the live version, it's like it's a whole orchestration.
Yeah, it
So,
is. Yeah.
So it's
Well,
like
Fred Hammond, a lot of his music.
Fred, man. So I don't know anything. All I know is I'm just being thrown in. But I'm also choosing to go that way, and I don't care what anybody says. I just know I want to do it. So that's kind of how that happened.
So then your growth sounds like it was really organic.
Yeah.
Trial by fire almost.
Yeah.
Obviously the church. So that's it, man. I've known you for a long time.
Yeah.
At this point, I mean, and for people who don't know, I met. It's crazy how I met because I'm in the mortgage industry.
Yeah.
And I met him at a restaurant. He was working at a restaurant.
Panera Bread. Yeah. Was it?
And he was like, man, were you 20? You were probably like 20.
I think I just turned 20. Yeah. I want it to sound like a certain way, so just working on like that because I'm just over the top. But yeah,
man, that's an interesting background. I find that fascinating because it's easy to just be like, oh, I never had a teacher, and then to start building excuses. So to see, and I mean, I think meeting the right people is a huge part of growing as a musician. You know, and people who know me, I'm not an industry guy. I'm not one of these. I know a lot of great musicians. I'm not necessarily a great musician myself, but what I've observed from all the guys who can play, they don't make it. It's like they make it happen. They meet the right people. Meeting the right people seems to be either that right person was in their family, so they grew up with the right people, or they just. And so I mean, it's interesting to see that you kind of, you know, instead of it being instead of it being like.
Yeah,
here's your
so,
drum
right?
instructor. Yeah. And now you are a drum teacher, which is also kind of interesting.
I almost feel like it's ironic because school was interesting for me, but only because I didn't want to apply myself. That's all.
Man, that makes me. So before we get to the next question, I want to ask this: have you ever thought about teaching at a university, at a high school, like something less independent, more like? What's the word I'm looking for? I don't want to say structure because I feel like you have structure.
Okay, I appreciate that.
But more like stable, I guess. Sometimes when you're like entrepreneur, independent, it's like COVID hit, like no students for a while.
Oh, for real though. Yeah, man. So, I mean, definitely. Okay, so to answer your question, it's definitely been a thing where like I still desire actually to teach, to be a professor. There are some things that need to take place in order for me to put myself in that position. But I think that's also why like I got drawn to just teaching in general and it not being it not having to go a certain way in order for me to just teach. You know, like teaching came out of a desire to, if I'm being just transparent, make any type of money from music at all. Because there was a time where I just wasn't getting gigs.
Right.
You know,
which is smart.
It was like, you know, I'm asking the Lord, man, hey, what can I do to get something just, you know, circulating, you know, some revenue in, and that's where teaching came out of. But it was like that was a thought that was old, and then I had put to the side, and I didn't know how teaching was gonna work. And then it was like, you can do it independently. That's what I kept hearing it, and I just wrote out this whole scheme, and that's how that ended up being a thing. But yeah, man, I desire to definitely be a professor at some point. I think I will. I don't know what it'll look like, where I'll be, but yeah, man.
All right. So then, before we get to our first interlude here to hear what you sound like. Okay. What is your favorite, and I think I've asked you this, so I think I know the answer, but what's your favorite genre, if you have one, of music to listen to and to play?
Yeah, okay. So I think I answered it, but I changed back and forth because the reality is I can't say that I have like a favorite one. I listen to, like, I like to think, and I say this like humbly, like I like to think that I have like some type of like an eclectic taste. So I listen to like a lot of different things. I find myself though listening to like being connected to older type music because of the instrumentation that was there, but my foundation is gospel because where I got a lot of my early education in just playing music was playing gospel music, and I also had listened to it. So Yeah, so but I guess I would have to say, man, like what I'm into now to give a specific answer. Um, Shoot, man, that's such a hard question. I think, but
Right.
okay, if I had to give an answer, like I'll just give you one that's just happening. That's been happening for the past 72 hours. Like I've been listening to Stevie Wonder's "In the Key of Life," that whole album. So
Okay.
like that genre, that style, that music, that sound, like I'm into that.
Right. Right.
And it's heavy. It's even almost feels kind of very. It has like a lot of jazz ties to it as well. But yeah, man, like that was the top 40 music of that time, and it was just a high level of playing like music for that period, and it's actually timeless. So yeah, I don't know. I don't know if that answers that. But
No, it does. I agree. Like Stevie Wonder,
yeah, type
that
vibe.
kind of singer songwriter, like
Yeah.
good songs, arrangements, all that. So
Yeah.
all right. So for our first break, if you could just play, I asked you to pick a song you like and just give us, just let us hear how you play and how you put it down. So
Okay.
all
So
right.
Just go ahead and get it.
Nice. Thank you.
Yeah, man. That's the natural stuff.
Yeah, we just had a nice little conversation. That was great, man. Thank you for that
Man.
again.
Appreciate it.
So we'll get back into it. So our next question, we're going to talk about just some of your preferences. So like a large part of my vision for this was to give, because I'm a guitar player, quote unquote.
Killing guitar player.
And I like to give, one of the struggles with me was knowing what was my job, especially with black music.
Yo.
Keyboard players have a job, drummers definitely have a job, bass players definitely have a job.
Yeah.
Sometimes with guitar, it's like, and you had to learn. I'm still learning.
Yeah.
So it's like, I like to just kind of give guitar players kind of a perspective of how we should fit in from other musicians' perspective. So then, when you're playing with a guitar player, what do you consider their job to be, and what are your expectations? Like, what do you think? What are you expecting that guitar player to do to add to the sound of the band? If you've thought about that.
Yeah. I mean, it's not like, I don't think it's not gonna be super like articulate or anything, but I always think of the guitar as like the added voice of the piano.
Okay.
Right. The piano has a bigger range that it works off of. Right. With like the treble and the bass, right? And so it uses the grand staff. You can play all the keys on that, but like a guitar is like an added voice. So when I'm playing, right, which is my job, is to really, there's a few different things that the drummer's job is supposed to be, but like the main thing that most people do understand is like obviously hold down the time, but make sure the feel is there. Whatever it is that we could do at any time. Like if I change the feel, it changes the way the song sounds, right? So then what I want a guitar player to do most times is to be able to really lock into what the keys are actually doing, but it sits on top of them. You know what I mean? If it was like, and it's like, again, it's not super articulate, but it's like layers, you know what I mean? So if there was like a first layer, usually it's like the drums, then you add the layer on next, which to me in my mind is like the bass, then the keys, right? And so that's a strong, fat rhythm section. The guitar also adds to that, but then the guitar is on top of the keys, right? So if the guitar wasn't there, it would be like a horn player, or anything like that. Like they're like right under like what the vocalists are gonna be doing. And so my thing is just like almost like thinking like the guitar should have their own pocket. Which is a lot of like ad-lib stuff, colors, and not so much pedal stuff. It's just like their voicings, you know what I mean? Because you're gonna get a lot more going out from the piano. Again, that referencing that, you're gonna get a lot more of that from them. But where there is like that empty space, that's where I kind of want to hear the body of the guitar, which is not like a bunch of notes, but just their pocket that they're supposed to stay in, which usually has like a lot to do with like rhythm and then like feel, like in terms of and it depends on what you're playing, because there are different types of music where the guitar is actually going to be in the head or just not even like heard, man. Like you can get like really, really old time like jazz, and even there, I forget what the body of the guitar is called, but they use like nylon strings. And it's like, this thing is even barely heard. You know what I mean? But there's that. But that's like, if we're talking gospel, man, it's just like, yeah, you're just an added voice. You know what I'm saying? And then, of course, if there's space for like a solo or just not so much a solo, but just like space for there to be more colors, right? Like that's where you come in, in my mind,
That's good, man. So it sounds like you kind of said a lot of things. I was thinking when you started with the keys, I was thinking, oh, he's more, because some people like you played this guy Shad. Shad Bradshaw is his name?
Shad Bradshaw, yep.
He gave me one lesson and it changed how he showed me some chord voices, and I was like, because he's good with the chord voices.
Yeah, he doesn't do much.
He doesn't, but he's really good at holding down a song. That's what I noticed about his style. He can hold down a song if a keyboard player is not there. He plays interesting voices that don't step on keyboard players. And that's one of your main guys. So I know you've played. Yeah. Obviously with the guitar player.
And that's actually where more so I learned even like what I like to hear and what you should be playing, because all the different solo things that you could do with that instrument is great. Like it's dope. But like if the keys player wasn't there, like
Yeah.
you really like. I mean, of course, you're just working in like this treble like vibe, but at the same time, like you still have a range that like like it doesn't mean like a bass player could like do that,
Right, exactly.
And
So
a drummer could do that, but like man, you better know the song because I'm just playing like the rhythm and
right,
hopefully
right.
you're hearing the melody like I'm hearing it, but most people won't. So
And that's a good way to tell if a guy knows what he's doing too. If he can hold down the song when the keyboard, 'cause that's not easy to do.
Nah,
I'm still
man.
working on that myself.
Yo,
like
it's real.
If somebody gets up off the keys, is still selling the song. So
Yeah.
so harmony, which I think, and then rhythm, which I thought you were gonna go there, like James Brown types, or like you were talking about Stevie Wonder, like really rhythmic stuff. Not even.
Again, it depends though.
True. Right.
Because like if we're talking gospel, gospel is vast.
It
right?
is.
Like
It
every
covers-
there's like sub music, there's like sub genres in like a genre of like music, a lot of the music that we are talking about. But if we were talking bumps, like if we were talking like praise breaks and stuff, man, that's guitar heavy most times,
Really,
and that depends on what region you're from.
Yeah.
But most times you get ding 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 like, and I'm trash at that, but like you get it, right?
I do.
So it's like that's kind of where the guitar would lead, and then the keys just sit under, man, and then the bass does a bunch, like. But again, like if we're talking like we're playing like worshipy type stuff, that's strummed, but like
yeah.
and then that movement of wherever you take that, right, can influence how that sounds.
It's right.
So much so that it's like, okay, you can tell this is what a guitar player is supposed to do, at least in my mind.
All right.
So, yeah.
Great answer, man. That's very insightful. So here, do you enjoy playing with guitar? I feel like I know the answer to this too, but do you enjoy playing with guitar players?
I hate them. No, I definitely do. I definitely do. Man, for a period of time, I actually didn't play with guitar players. If we go back to like what I said earlier, like my upbringing, it wasn't the extent of me playing with somebody was just keys, and it was for a long time the acoustic piano, like it wasn't even like the keyboard, man. So, but definitely, man, it adds an element that is like takes the weight off.
And so I asked that question to you, non-guitar player people, or it's because some people don't. Because what I've noticed about guitar players is like, if you're not sensitive to what is going on, it's easy for us to get in the way and trying so hard. I think sometimes to add to the sound is like you're not being very thoughtful and you're kind of distracting from what's going. You're not, like you said before with feel, you're disrupting from the feel. So some people, and I mean, you feel me? Like, because like I said, keys, bass, and drums usually covers what you're trying to do. And if you add guitar, that adds an element, and then like horns, you know what I mean? So I feel like some people are like, if a guitar player is not sensitive, is fitting in where he should be getting in, it's like a distraction or taking away from the sound. That's why I asked that.
Okay, no.
And I do expect, I think you're being honest about that though when you say
Yeah. I mean, I don't even want to play devil's advocate, but like, that can be said for every instrument too, right?
True. That's true.
You know, because I actually see the guitar player, even though I spoke in layers, I see the guitar player. Like if we're talking a rhythm section, can a rhythm section happen without the guitar player? Sure.
Right.
But a full rhythm section is like drums, bass, keys, guitar, and if you're blessed enough, you got horns. That's a rhythm section, and not a ton of horns. But that's a rhythm section, like, and okay, that's a band, but like they all have their own roles that they play that makes up this huge conglomerate like idea. So,
right.
So I think the guitar is actually an essential part. You know what? Even from playing at church with us, man. You know he plays at our church, man. He's a killing guitar player. He doesn't talk about himself a lot, but he is. But when you're not there for whatever the reason is. Say you're not able to be there at the rehearsal, or just say, you know, you couldn't be there at the service that day for whatever the reason is, there's an element that's missing that like can't be played from the keys. I don't care how good your keys player is. Can't be played obviously from the drums. It just doesn't exist. But you know what I'm saying? It can't be sung, you know? And so you add this extra body that's super important.
It's like you said, that layer, almost like if you're doing tracks. That layer. I feel you. That's another good insight. And like you said, any instrument, if you're not sensitive, then, and we're gonna actually get it to, I'm gonna ask you.
Okay.
I'm gonna go ahead and ask this one before our next interlude.
Okay.
Before you give us some music.
Yeah.
Kind of goes. It's all these last three questions go together.
Okay.
But how do you approach music? And I'm asking that from the perspective of, are you more looking at drums as you should be grooving, you should be making the song feel the feel of the song, or like chops? And or if it's not one that you, well, how do you approach out of those three, or if there's one I didn't mention, how do you approach playing the drums? It's like, are you a groove drummer, feel, chops?
Man, yeah, okay. So all those things that you mentioned, I think are important. But if I had to describe, and I hope my playing shows that as well. But if I had to describe like what my approach is, it would definitely be from the groove aspect. Like,
Okay.
but I'm thinking the melody though, like, cause groove. Okay, it's just depending on how you say it. But like, I think, okay, when you speak groove, I think of just one thing, rhythm, right? And so rhythm isn't necessarily something that can always be felt melodically. So when I play something, I'm thinking of the form. Like, what's the form? Like, all right, what's the intro? What's the verse? Right? Is there a pre-chorus? Is there a chorus? And then about when are we going to turn around, to repeat that, right? And then that's just, I'm building like, okay, and then like, what are the parts that are being repeated? Like, what's the repetition in it? And this is literally how I'm thinking when I'm playing. So that's why when, I'm playing, at least I'm trying to just, and then that's where it comes into this, okay, what's the most important thing to me? The groove. Yeah, for sure. But like at the foundation, like I sing in my mind on the drums when I'm playing it. It just doesn't have the same tonal value as like someone on the keys, but there's tones that come out of these, right? But they're totally different. Also, I was attuned to it, but they're even more like short sounding. They're staccato, right? Like they're not super long, like legato. But then even when I hit the cymbals, it's like it's meant to do something at a certain point for a certain moment for a certain reason. So melody is what my actual idea is, and then the groove kind of backs that up. And then if I use chops, like unless I'm just expressing myself or just playing with stuff, chops and like feels, right, to me are for transitions, right? To set people up for, hey, this is where we're getting ready to go, and then I'm crashing. That's the signal to let you know we're done, back into the melody, the groove, right? So does that make sense?
It does. So it almost sounds like, so I'm gonna recap.
Okay.
Well, one, it sounds like you're saying chops serve a purpose. So just being a choppy drummer ain't.
Not during the song. And there's songs like that, but yeah, not necessarily.
And then feel, I think, goes in. But so you said melodic. That's interesting for a drummer to say you approach music. I'm gonna have to add that next time I interview another drummer.
Yeah.
Do you approach the music? I would have never thought to ask if you approach the music from a drummer's perspective melodically. Yeah. Which it almost sounds more like, if I could describe the whole like pocket, like knowing where the song's going, making tight transitions, and really playing the song and not just so that cool.
That's even what I try to do with like different like these stacks you started earlier. I'm playing in it, but I was using that every time the song transitioned to like the first part of the verse, because it was playing under instead of just going back to the snare. But it had a sound that was like in and out, a real cut, dry sound. So, and then I would move to the next higher section of, like, in my mind, of the verse before the chorus hit, and like sonically, like that was the snare. And then I would transition and use the toms tonally, like, to set me up for the chorus, and then the crash, and then just groove back, go back into the groove. So yeah, like that's how I'm thinking about it.
Man, that's a great answer. So really, I'm not gonna say I have something on my mind, but we're gonna transition. So he's gonna play a song I like. He chose a song he liked. Yeah. We actually end up both liking this song, but D'Angelo, who's one of my favorite artists, he's the man. Yeah. And Player from Voodoo. Yeah. And we're gonna check out his interpretation of that. Hopefully he kind of just takes it where he wants to take it. Cool. And we're gonna let him do his thing. dope. Thank you, man. That was dope.
Yeah, man.
That was tight.
Slash Loverithm 27, and then on Instagram it's literally just like look me up at Loverithm, all one word. And yeah.
And do you have a website or?
I'm working on a
Working on
website
that.
right
All right.
now. But the easiest way to definitely reach me is through those two mediums. And then
All right.
my email is also a way that I communicate with people for like lessons and things like that. But that's Kenneth underscore TLOR
Mhm.
at yahoo.com. But yeah, those are the ways that you can reach out to me and just see kind of what I'm doing, and then even just inquire of particular things, to see if you need any particular work done. So yeah,
Hey, thanks a lot, bro.
man, thank you, bro.
Hey,
Appreciate you, man.
Great job.
Yeah, dude.
Talk to you later,
All
man.
right,
Reflexive Solutions.
man.